Good afternoon, listener. You are listening to Etop Radio. The time right now is 2 o'clock, and the news in English. I am Stephen Okiror. The government this morning met with the members of parliament from Teso region and other regions to agree on the resolution on cattle theft in Teso region. The position was reached at during a meeting by a government chief whip, Thomas Tayebwa, and the Minister of Economic Monitoring, Peter Ogwang, and the Teso members of parliament. Mr. Tayebwa, in his Twitter post, confirmed the development, saying he met the members of parliament and MPs from some other parts of Karamoja region, led by Esther Anyakun, to address the concerns of cattle theft in the region. He noted that both sides agreed to peacefully resolve the issue of theft in the region. You are listening to Etop. I'm Stephen Okiror.
Hello viewers, my name is Nathan Eyago and this is Teso Vibes. If it is your first time watching Teso Vibes, make sure you subscribe on our channel. Also make sure you follow us on our different social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and the rest. Thank you for your support in Teso Vibes. Today I'm so glad to sit next to a senior journalist, one who has inspired me, one who has inspired very many people outside there who are eager to actually join journalism, and of course even those who are in active journalism today. This is Mr. Stephen Okiror. We shall be getting to know more about Stephen Okiror. He's actually retiring from active journalism, active media, and of course he's going to another world again. Of course, not again in media. So we shall be knowing from him why he's actually leaving media for good. What has actually made him come up with that decision, and of course his advice to the young journalists outside there who are actually still in this field. So we shall be getting to know from our mentor here. Hello, Mr. Stephen.
Hello, Nathan.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Yeah. Today is actually another beautiful day. We just have a few days to Christmas, and of course it was actually surprising news to most people who have been listening to your programs, like Ojena Kwap. That has been one of the programs that you used to actually host like every Sunday. In this program, iminajo enera akironika mara kede itiang kede abosho nuegelegela iboro le mamtunga ejente kede bodo eshomi iye muto kede amusugun. Today you actually had a connect program lo awasha lo actually ashomo iye muto la awasha era yeni ibore ne sire mtunga le po mamule po amutotobala tijinyo atipa. What has actually made you leave media? Why are you quitting media?
Nathan, yogano yalamo no jawabu nere airia mun kidango
ebo
ajenu na Disney kamutosi yongo kina swamukage unkarngun.
Yes.
Lolo nyesi angeta kinangu ikaruka kaisa ngona ndio potoma o media. Narai ageuntingo jani ara losting ine na ara utu a media professional.
Yes.
Ikara kaisa ngono kawu. Era swamuna media aswamuna joko and very prestigious.
Yes.
Narai iriamunu joke tungale po jajo kiri paparole po jenji tungale po tama kopsine no po no egelegela ni nomete jo konye ation sneja tare media mamo era related ke disirgin.
Yes.
Most media personnel leave the profession when they are still poor. Konye dojo asalakino media up to this long. It must be a passion. Jata tarjo aswam akota aswam ngini noi otomoponelo orai kolodeke ochama kinte tunga ai torero tolo kote tunganan ti kolongo tenga achapa karae e mwalimu araimam e kimatale cancer konyedo itunga lu ashoman kini yemuto inspired me asala dongo arae journalist la narai ajeningo be so maido kwananga kasom na jok narai isimana artetunga da konyedo kwana nyumka erai boria re polo kotoma na soditi akoko sanango
ika karulo kwanela kaisa kanyapalu kanyapelo 66 years running now. So ipu ikar ngunoi ache apake aja utukato mo media igolti chedu heda boboluti e korskis da rekonai alomar toma chapake balede kebe eroke polon ber ngoni jai nyowdo nga chapake olomudi ko kudi che ko dai lomar toma. Secondly just ngokida ariebo na abo geunte sek ariebo na konye abo geu sek mam bakas bitonga bara ba computer ekota ekonai amunare sa konyara bonyo konye mam ejari bone bakasimuro ko be glaucoma, the pressure of the eyes nyesa bungi sisia 1 year back polo rido to majara ka to makwana ge akonye berna ge icon yambe nyobe jai to ma konye dalo to ngoni nyebuno na bote mabe no, you have a problem le baka be glaucoma, the pressure of the eyes. Konye mamera computers na re ge unti sek kolongo etar ko ngadita shumingo o primary apedor ngei boyo kau abawoyi no kau apedor itenyo e blackboard ngar na nyo konye de kaulo adolongo secondary anyu do be lo sekwana konye mame pedor seitejo. So I had to move nearer now to the front desks. So those are two issues that are now making me to completely retire. Nara imam mambo operation mi mto a popular ino kwane edit mamu apedor no ashoma unless the background is black and white letters. So the good thing is with the new vision we use computers and washomi mto, so you can increase the font of the items. So I am able to see bigger letters and be able to read it very fast. But this cannot continue now so that's the problem I really have now.
You're saying Erailo kwani ikara kaisa onkindo kwi ijaijo active media. Ndoro bere kwani okarubani ilo marto rejo to actually join journalism. Then at what age were you by then?
I broke on air again I show me mto.
Yes.
Already Uganda. Do karungoni arai 1980. Aparasi angono ajai a program lo egwekint a news department. Kwape announcements, official announcements. Those official announcements you can know from ministries, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, ministries, anuti as a press. Or partner Diego Yemuto, but the editors found it be a pudo kwanenyo a potudo official announcements ngune puakata. They could not convert all the announcements into news. So they created a program announcements, official announcements. So I was identified to read these official announcements after news in English. Immediately after news in English, the official announcements will now come in. These official announcements did not have any personal announcement there. It was only official announcements sent from ministries, from different departments of government. Yes, I show you again.
Oraboji Karidi by then?
I could say I was around 25 years.
Wow, so you joined this when you were still...
I was still quite a young man. And I liked reading. Narai anoi bore na abu inspiring ango. Ajai eja kait laba kai be Joji Justin Kibajo. Aparasi angonorai a news reader on Radio Uganda. I liked him so much. He became my role model.
Yes.
So again dongo da esisana ro tomo pone do la umtono paranga shumiem. I think I tingo da operation mo kwane. So during the my course of work, kwape announcements, official announcements reader, they identified me be achie pa kepedora shomo yemutoda. So then the editor picked me to go for interviews.
Yes.
At Radio Uganda with the controller of programs, Radio Uganda. At that time it was Joe Natwala, the muzee called Joe Natwala was the one who was a controller. So he interviewed me, and originally they had wanted me to read Ateso. Konyedo epodo kesisi sia utube. Amita misikiti dongo aishomo musuguna deparinyo adepara Ateso. Then he recommended me to the editor for news in English. Jukare dongo a news editor at that time called Georgia Lele. That's the one who now recommended and gave me the first bulletin. That was now in 1980. And I was now inspired by the community. People started writing in papers, congratulating me, saying, this is a good, and this did not go well. Colleagues kalu luaja sinyina luageto saikon, especially lu jase Uganda ina. Mam kese pupeta jok bala pedorte tesoto loera esaptale dit. Aisumie mutole bakasunga be de parity lucheto. So anepa neni anyunete be, I think I am able to asikunete dongo. Aisumie muto for external service of Radio Uganda. At that time, external service of Radio Uganda was broadcasting news to Europe and West African countries. I used to receive letters from Kenya, from other countries, and say, congratulations, this is very good. Ugandan reading news quite very well like that. So it was Parasangunara, very balon educio. A letter would come from very far. So 3 of us were identified to read news for external service of Radio Uganda. Out of the 18 I think were 18 news readers in English. There were many actually, so we had times. So that's how they identified me to read news. And it is news that I've been reading most of the time. I do programs also. In Radio Uganda I used to do a program called Innovations. It was also a very good program like Ojena Kwap, the one I'm doing here. Innovations, how people innovate things, what happens in such and such an area, how do they do it, how they come up, like that.
Okay, still in your journey of work, how you started work, how many media houses have you worked for until you came to Vision Group? Vision Group, this is a top radio, and of course today you're retiring. How many media houses?
There are a number of media houses, especially in Teso here, that you know, when FM radio stations came in, there was no expertise outside except people from Uganda Television and Radio Uganda. So both the engineers and the producers and people who were able to produce programs were all from Radio Uganda. If you look at the history of all those radio stations that started, you either had an engineer from Uganda Television, Radio Uganda going to install, and a producer from that area. So when I left Radio Uganda around 98 there, I went back, but I went to Voice of Teso. Voice of Teso at that time was the only radio that Mr. Mokola had started. I think he had a passion for his people to start a radio. He wanted these people to know what is going on. So I came in. Other people were here, but I also came in just a year earlier. And the engineer was from Radio Uganda, called Mr. Bao. He partnered, I think, with Mr. Mokola, and they started that radio. They started in a van first of all, just a van, a radio van, and OB outside broadcasting. Then later on they got Kennedy House, and then so they accepted me to come in to help them in the news department. That was the first radio that I went. And I worked as an editor and also a news reader in English. Actually, in Voice of Teso, they even carried out a survey to find out the best news readers.
Yes, yes.
And I got the accolade. I got the Voice of Teso award.
Wow.
for news in English. And then my friends got it. Then I left the Voice of Teso and went home. But I was again called to open a radio in Kumi. An engineer from Uganda Television, whom I used to work with, knew me, and the proprietor of the radio was saying, "How do we get the producer? How do we get our programs?" Then he identified me. That engineer identified me. He said, I know somebody who can. Then he picked me from Amuria, and I went to Continental FM. So I opened that radio with the programs that I started. I did all the programming and all that, and that radio now became. But 2005, that's when I left now Continental FM also. Actually, my being in Continental FM, Haraidibo Rena Sweetbalam, I met Chada. Now 2008, Abu Lakwena, that was it. Konyibala Parasadong. So I started doing a mechido lailu kumina. But I left in 2005 and went home to Amuria. But I was again called to Veritas. Some of my friends who knew me, like Jenetengo, no, you don't get wasted in the village. Come and help us. I said, but how? I have not applied. I have not. He said, no. There was a friend of mine called Michael Ejulu. He's the one who said, my only problem is if they can only allow you to be on air once, they will get convinced that you can do it. So you just come. I will convince just my editors and say, allow him just to say, make bulletins on it. So that is what happened. And then they accepted me. And so that was the other third radio station. So I was doing news on Delta and also Veritas. But from there, somebody opened the radio in Katakwi. Grace Akelo, the former ambassador in India. She opened a radio there called Joshua. So again, that very engineer, the one who was in Kumi, was the one who was installing there. He again recommended me to go and open up that radio station and help in programming especially. So I did the programming very well in Joshua FM, and that was now the time New Vision was advertising for people to join for this radio here. So I was one of those who applied to join New Vision. But when I reached there, upon only actually after interviews, we were now waiting for. We did interviews 3 times, written, oral, and then again there were those. It was a hectic scene. So while I was in Joshua, I was told, oh, it's unfortunate, Stephen, you haven't gone through. So, but there was somebody who was really after me, who wanted me, called Kenneth Oluka. He knew me, and he wanted me around. And all the people who had known me wanted me. So they say, then he rang me and said, are you coming for the induction which was taking place at Lagos? Said, I'm not coming because I've been told I'm not through in the interview. Mr. Luka said, no, those people don't know. They don't know. The problem with you was age. You know, the company cannot take, at that time I think I was now about 54 years. And the age for contracts in New Vision was 55. Yes. So their problem was only just age, but those people don't know what you can do. You just come. Let me convince them. So he convinced them. And I was called for induction. So when I came, when we finished the induction, I blew up. And you see, they said, wow, we would have missed the man who would have. So news has been. Then they also gave me that program of Ojenakwam.
That was really a journey.
It was a journey. And the inspiration for those young people who want to follow this. The secret is you should have a passion.
Yes. Number one is passion.
Passion.
Yes.
And number two, you must work very hard.
Hard work. Yes.
If you are employed in a company, for instance, employment simply means you are selling your time.
Yes. Yes.
And they are giving you money.
Yeah.
So the time does not become yours. The time is for the company, and the money now is yours.
So you have to work hard.
You have to work.
Yes.
You have to give them the time. Whenever they want you, whenever they call you, you have to be available.
Yes.
I see sometimes young people going on leave or going out and they switch off their phones. Your supervisors want you.
Yes.
They want to call you, you are off air. You are not on.
Yeah.
And yet, you said, I'm giving you my time.
Exactly. Yes.
So that contract is not a good one. So you must work for the company and be able to listen to what you are being told.
Yes.
And work together.
Yes.
In journalism, in journalism, when you write a story, give it to your friend.
Yes.
He will see a mistake. And your friend will tell you. And in every bulletin that you read, those of you are going to be news readers. There is likely going to be a mistake in any story.
Yes.
Either a spelling mistake, a factual error, or some grammatical error that you need to be alert.
Yes.
So when you go to the newsroom to read news, you should look through the bulletin first. Because editors also make mistakes. Sometimes they skip some of these mistakes. Maybe factual errors, names of people mixed up. So you should be able to go back and tell the editor that no. Mr. Okiror is not the inspector of schools. He is the DEO, not the inspector of schools.
Yes.
So those small errors that sometimes you skip or places, and also should be able to pronounce names of people. Try as much as possible to pronounce names of. It offends somebody if his or her name is not read the way it is supposed to be. Go to the editor and find out how that name is read. And also the reporters should make sure that they get to know the pronunciation of the name of somebody is interviewing. Get to know the pronunciation, get to know the spelling properly. If you cannot write it, give him the notebook. Let him spell it himself. And then that is how you should be able to write it. Don't come and write wrong spellings, wrong names which are not. It offends people. It offends. So teamwork is very, very, very important. Work together and love each other. At work is different. Outside is also a different thing. And that's how you really can manage to.
Okay, Mr. Okiror, just before we conclude, there has always been a talk inside the public there. They have always described journalists as being poor, and they have described journalism as a profession of poor people, whereby someone goes to school, spends money, his or her parents, like they spend lots of money expecting returns from their son or daughter, but you realize when the kid is actually done with the school, he or she goes out looking for a job, positively he gets a chance, lands into one media house, starts working there, but you realize maybe, for example, there is a very small pay, but you realize some of them continue working, but of course the majority of them are like, no, I think I should just quit, let me go and do some other business than me wasting time with this media work, because there is respect, that is true. The journalists are respected, but they are also described as people who are poor. What message can you give to the scholars outside there who are doing journalism, but of course they are getting this kind of speeches?
Like I told you earlier that journalism, broadcasting is a prestigious role. It is a prestigious role because we talk to very important people, very, very many important people. And like I said, our profession is not related with the wealth, and the passion is something that in many cases pushes people, some of us. But also there is a benefit in our profession because you meet very many friends. You get so many friends who can connect even your children, for instance. Like for me, you just mention my name, they say, this is the son of so and so. So you are rich with friends and not rich with money. So it is also advantageous for us that even the Bible says it's better to be rich with friends, with the people, than to be rich with money that perishes. So it is that passion sometimes and that kind of thing that should encourage you. Should encourage. And by the way, all of us are journalists. Naturally, everybody is a journalist by nature. Because if you leave this village and go to the other village, when you come back, you should be able to tell us what happened there. They tell the story, isn't it? Only that we are trained people to present accurate news. We are trained not to tell lies. We are trained, that is the difference. But everybody can tell a story. From wherever he has gone, he comes back, he tells a story. In New Vision, sometimes, Uganda Times, those days, you wouldn't go and leave and come back and say you don't have a story. Anybody who would go and leave would come back with a story. Because something must have happened there where you were. So you should be able to. So the passion for the work. I know of people who have been journalists and have left, but they still write. Very many of them. They still write. They still send their articles to the newspapers. Sometimes they. So it's a good profession that. But if you're going in for journalism for money, then that is not a place for you. You will definitely get disappointed because money is not in journalism. But ventures for journalists is one other aspect, which is you can be taken to the front. The front line, people are fighting in the areas, and especially investigative journalism is very interesting. It builds up your CV also, and you get so many things in the world. Actually, journalism and my work as a broadcaster helped me to produce that program Ojena Cup very well, because most of the things are Jeningo Borichelo people, and so I'm able to advise, I'm able to give information. So journalism is not for money. It is really for people who have the passion to serve the people. And the media is a force state. Without the media, that country is dead.
That's very true.
If there is any country without the media, it is a dead country. So we have to be there. Scribes have to be there at all times. Sometimes you get discouraged because they are beaten. They are beaten because they want to get the truth to tell the people about what's happening. Because why would you beat a man who is going to say the truth?
Exactly.
Why do you do that? If he's doing his work and you're also doing yours, it's because you're doing a wrong thing. That's why you don't want him to expose that wrong thing, and that's why sometimes they are beaten. But they don't lie. They don't give people lies. Like you are filming. You show people that is it. That is the old man. I was talking to him, and people see you. If it is a cavio, why do you create a cavio? Why do you beat people? Why must the police beat people? And that is what they don't want. They don't want bad things to be seen. And that's where the problem is. That's where we journalists have a problem. But I would like to say that it's not a bad profession.
Yes.
It's not a bad profession.
Okay. Okay. Just as one of your advice to other young journalists, and of course the listeners who have always been following you, all those who are going to miss you now as you take a new journey.
Yeah. To those of you, especially the broadcasters in news in English, a news anchor in English is a shadow editor. You should be able to know many words that can be used to cover so many.
Yes.
Just like editors. Sometimes you see so many mistakes that editors have left, and you should be able to correct them on air.
Yeah.
Should be able to correct them on air. Don't read them just like that. And sometimes when you are reading and there is a mistake that you have made, proceed. A few people may realize you have made a mistake, but the moment you try to stop and read again, people now realize that that was a mistake, and very many now will know that. And you know, a good read bulletin depends on a well-written bulletin. So reporters should write very well, and editors should also look through those items very well, so that the end product comes very well. If the news is written very well, you flow very well also as you read, without having hiccups and there. So those are the kind of things that, and there is in broadcasting, especially news, there is a nervousness that sometimes you get.
Yes.
Professionally, even professionals get nervous, but it's natural. Natural to get nervous, but it goes off immediately. But if you get a situation like that one, that you are nervous, you think of your mother that you're used to talking to very well, or think of your sister or your brother that you have been talking very easily. And imagine you are now reading the news to that person. That nervousness will go off. Imagine now, don't think that you are now reading to a professor, or a doctor, or an English teacher somewhere else, or your editor is now listening. Think about your mother or somebody else. You will get through, you will sail through. If you think of those people, then you are likely going to make so many mistakes. That is for you people who are going to be anchors in reading. Read to your mother, or read to your father, or read to your brother. You will sail well. In many cases, nervousness is what makes people not to. And then there are others who want to read like they are bazungus. They are be natural. Be natural in your reading, and understand the story that you are reading. That's why I said earlier that you must understand, read the story first, get to know how to read. In television, it's even worse, because in television you are expected to look at the camera. You will have read the whole paragraph, and then you look at the camera. You read, television girls read so many sentences at once, then they just look at the camera, and then you come back to look at another sentence, 2, 3, 4, and look back to the camera. You are not supposed to look at the script all the time. So understand the story, so that when you read that story, you know exactly what you're reading about. You know the next sentence will be like this, so it will flow, and that's how you will manage it. But also read ahead of you. When you start a sentence, the other eye should be in the other words, in the front words. So by the time you reach there, you have already gone to another. So you'll be flowing as you keep reading. So it is my encouragement to those of you who still want to be journalists. Please, it's a good profession, although it has no money. But if you want money, you may not get it in journalism. It is very unlikely you're going to get money in journalism.
Okay, thank you so much for following Taste of Vibes. My name is Nathan. I've actually been hosting Moses Stephen Okiror, one of the great news anchors in Teso here, someone who has actually spent a lot of time in media. Just imagine 41 years. How about you there who has just come out and you have already given up? His story will actually be able to inspire you outside there who is still at school, you who is actually planning to actually leave school, maybe because you've heard stories about media not being paying well. You've actually heard from him, his journey, and how he managed actually to do it. When you do your best, people will actually definitely come looking for you. Be like, yeah, we know that guy. This has been Teso Vibes, and it has been so interesting having Muse Okiror here telling us his journey. So if you're wondering why we're not putting on masks, Mr. Okiror actually had his jab. I also took my own jab. If you have not gone for COVID-19 vaccination, make sure you go for it because it's for your own safety.